Alright, what's happening everybody? It's your boy Akeen and welcome to today's vlog. Here to finally start things off with all my top 5 players of each position headed towards the 2014 NFL Draft. I'm going to kick things off with my top 5 quarterbacks. Now I believe that I have a stellar group for you guys. Now I'm not going to be shocked if 4 of my top 5 quarterbacks headed into this draft will be picked within the first 10 selections of this year's draft. I believe that a good 4, possibly 5 teams, especially the Minnesota Vikings, the Houston Texans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Oakland Raiders, and the Cleveland Browns. All 5 of these teams desperately need a quarterback. Possibly not the Minnesota Vikings, but a good 4 of these teams. So like I said, I'm not going to be shocked if I do see 4 of my top 5 quarterbacks selected within the first 10 picks. Now, I'm not predicting that it will happen, but like I said, I'm not going to be shocked if it does. Now, I'm going to give you my top 5 quarterbacks starting at number 5. I'm going to give you a true mature leader out of Clemson University, Tajh Boyd. Now, he's the most prolific passer in Clemson history, passed for over 100 touchdown passes. He's a great leader, a good quarterback. I do like his poise, and I also like his combat body, meaning he's a good bulk size body at 6'1". Yes, he does have the doesn't have the ideal height at 6'1", but he weighs 225 pounds. A good bulk. Shows he's a tough running quarterback, running for over 400 yards this past season and 10 touchdowns. And he's a tough suited quarterback, which means he can take the hit. I do like him a lot. Now, a couple things he needs to work on. He needs to tighten up his throwing motion. He sometimes winds his passes, which is not good. It gives the defenders, especially defensive ends and outside linebackers, more time to get to the quarterback and even strip the ball and swat the ball away. He needs to work on that and throwing more zip passing motions. Also, he sometimes struggles throwing on the run. He needs to work on his throwing motion and running the football while running the football. He needs to work on throwing better while he is running. But I still think he's a great quarterback overall. And also, he tends to run off way too early when he doesn't find an open receiver. He needs to keep his eyes more down the field and work making plays with throwing the football instead of just giving up and going out for a run too early. He needs to work on that just a little bit, timing a little bit. At number 4, I'm going to go with Derek Carr out of Fresno State. Now, like his big brother, David Carr, went to the same school and he had a great career as a Bulldog. For the past 3 seasons in his career, he has increased in yardage, completion percentage, and touchdowns for each of those 3 seasons. He ended off with over 5,000 yards this past season and 50 touchdowns with just 8 interceptions. He is a great quarterback. Reminds me a lot of big brother David. Hopefully he's going to have a better career than David, but just a couple of concerns for me. He does have the NFL caliber arm and he can hit his targets. But he ran his offense through the shotgun and not in a pro-style offense where he is under center and he is not forced to throw the football while he has to drop back and watch out for the defenders to get ready to throw the football. He needs to work on more pro-style offense, but he did show good potential in the Senior Bowl practice. He had a great Senior Bowl practice week as well as a good game at the Senior Bowl. He threw for a touchdown pass and passed for 64% and completed 64% of his passes. I do think he's a good athletic player, and he's actually underrated as an athlete. He can sometimes even give you some good easy yardage running the football, making good decisions. At number 3, I think a lot of people will disagree with me on this one, but I have to go with Blake Bortles out of UCF, Central Florida. Now, the reason I have him at number 3 is because I'm not 100% sold on him. I think a lot of people, a lot of scout reports, a lot of commentators like Mel Kiper and Todd McShay have him as a number 2 quarterback, but I have him at number 3 because I'm just not 100% sold. Yes, he had a couple of good seasons and he was on my watch list heading towards this year on my preview for the American Conference. I do like him a lot. He has the great size, the prototypical size at 6'4", 230 pounds. He has a good arm. He gives out a smooth release. I do like his release, his ability to zip the football instead of winding up his passes. He does good confident ability. He has great confidence in throwing the football, and he has good mobility in running the football as well. He knows when to run the football and when to pass, and even has a good escape ability in my opinion. Now, throughout his career, he is very underrated, but he even overcome the comments that he had to deal with throughout his career. Coming out of high school, he passed for 53 touchdown passes, but none of the big schools in college football recruited him coming out of the state of Florida. I still think he had to overcome that. That shows his mental toughness, and he shows his maturity and how he could just overcome and outplay what the critics had believed that he can do, and he actually overcame that. He's a great quarterback. I had to give him a lot of respect. Led this UCF team to a Fiesta Bowl victory. Now, a couple things that he needs to work on is his deep ball. He needs to be a little bit more accurate and throw a more accurate deep ball. And also, one other mechanic he needs to work on is that he sometimes does not step into his throws. If he does step into his throws, his arm strength will even increase and even get in a better zip in delivering the football to his receivers. I think he just needs to work on those two particular mechanics. At number 2, I'm going to have to go with Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel out of the Texas A&M Aggies. He is the Heisman Trophy winner 2 seasons ago. He's a prolific player, a great dual threat, and this is why I think he could go number 1 overall to the Houston Texans, possibly between him and my number 1 quarterback. But he makes big plays through his feet and his arm, and he definitely loves to try to pass the football instead of just giving up and running the football. He makes humongous plays. But let's not overlook that. I have to at least give him a little weakness on that one. Some of those big plays that he did make, it wasn't really him. It was the receivers that he had who made the big plays. Now, there were times where he would just lob the ball in the air, and the receiver made the play through jump balls, like Mike Evans in particular in that Alabama game. But I still think he's a great quarterback overall, and there is some maturity issues. He had a couple of string of off the field issues that shows his lack of maturity, but I think with a good coach and a good quarterback coach, that could tighten him up in the National Football League, and also throughout the players that he has on his team. Hopefully they can show him how business is done in the National Football League. He just needs to mature a little bit, actually a lot. I can't say that. Last but not least, my number 1 quarterback, and this was an obvious pick for me, I have to go with Louisville's Teddy Bridgewater. Now, I believe that out of all of my quarterbacks, he is the best passing quarterback. Passing for 31 touchdown passes this season, over 3,000 yards under head coach Charlie Strong, and he showed that he could play well in the big game. He had a big victory in the Sugar Bowl 2 seasons ago against a good SEC Florida team. I have to give him a lot of props. I actually picked Florida to spank the Louisville Cardinals, but it was actually vice versa. The Cardinals crushed the Gators in that matchup, and due to the great efforts from Teddy Bridgewater, a great leader for that Cardinal offense. Now, one thing he does need to work on in his throwing mechanics, he sometimes throws in at a low release where he will throw from the ear. He actually needs to throw just a little bit further above the ear so he can have better elevation and throwing the football and give his receivers a chance to get to the football. Now, if he throws at the ear level, that gives the defenders opportunities to swat the ball away, or even worse, cause interceptions, which is a big mess up in the National Football League. That cannot happen. But I think he just needs to work on that. But he reminds me so much of Russell Wilson, but just a tall version of Russell Wilson at 6'3" compared to 5'8" for Wilson. But I think he's a great quarterback, and I think he will be the number 1 quarterback taken in this year's NFL draft. Now, I have a couple of honorable mentions I need to talk about. Start with Alabama's A.J. McCarron. He had a great career as a Crimson Tide, the greatest quarterback coming out of Alabama, in my opinion. He had a great career, but the reason why I couldn't put him in my top 5 is because he had a lot of talent around him, like Eddie Lacy. He had Trent Richardson. He had T.J. Yeldon, good receivers around him, and Amari Cooper, Banks. He had some great players around him, and also he had a great defense, which was key to both of the national championships that he claimed. He's a great quarterback, but he did have a lot of talent around him, so I can't give him all the credit, but even though a lot of people give him pretty much most of the credit, but I do have to give him some credit. Another honorable mention, coming out of the SCS division, Jimmy Garoppolo out of Eastern Illinois. Now, he caught a lot of people's attention in the Senior Bowl practice. He had a solid week as well as a solid game and a great season. Passed for over 5,000 yards and 51 touchdown passes. I would definitely give you a scouting report individually about Jimmy. Now, also, I need to give you a scout report for Brent Smith out of Wyoming. He's another player I got my eye on. He decided to leave early and entered the NFL draft after his junior season, which I think personally that was a bad decision. And he's also not invited to the scouting combine, which is a big mess up. I think he deserves that invite. He's a great dual threat quarterback and under the radar dual threat quarterback. I think a lot of people didn't get enough time to see him while he was playing at Wyoming, but he has some great highlight reels. Definitely lead you to him as well. And last but not least, my sleeper of the year. Yes, he's one of my former Texas Longhorns, but I still think he could be a good sleeper. Garrett Gilbert out of SMU. Now, he started his career at the Texas Longhorns, and he showed as a Texas Longhorn quarterback, and he showed a lot of potential in that 2010 National Championship against the Alabama Crimson Tide. He had a great game as a true freshman, in my opinion, and I think he showed a lot of potential, but he did not live up to that potential for the next upcoming seasons for the Texas Longhorns, and then he decided to transfer to SMU, and he had a good, decent senior season. 21 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions to go along with over 3,500 yards passing. And I think because of that improvement under the tutelage of June Jones, I think that Garrett Gilbert could be a good sleeper for this year's NFL draft in the late rounds of this year's draft. So I have to have him as my sleeper at the quarterback position. Now, the next time I'm going to catch you guys is on Wednesday, where I will give you my top 5 running backs headed towards the 2014 NFL Draft. Thank you for watching today's blog from Pro Football Exclusive. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.